It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Friday, October 6th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Soundcloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. Today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Until the End with Daniel Baker, the Wednesday Message Word Study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone. How are you doing? Because it's a wonderful Friday and the weekend is upon us. I am really excited. I will be heading back to Vancouver tomorrow, and today is my last podcast over here in Atlanta. If you haven't yet, go ahead, leave a like and likes or comments to build our community. Super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up, support each other each and every day. This week's Sunday message title, God's Heart and My Heart. Oh, it's the last day of the week, and I am excited and happy. Still in Atlanta. I will be heading back to Vancouver tomorrow. My last podcast here in Atlanta. So, I just had a wonderful week. I spent probably like the first 2-3 days my body was recovering. You know, like it's just from all that sports that we were playing, my body's recovering. So I am going to recover into the weekend and go fly back to Vancouver and start eating healthy food again. I've had barbecue so far. I've had barbecue 6 out of the 7 days that I've been here, and I wouldn't be surprised if I had more barbecue tonight. I don't know, right? And even the one day I didn't have barbecue, I had heavy food, like heavy, gassy food. I had Mexican food, al pastor tacos. Oh, so good. And that was like 2 days ago. Yesterday night, I went all-you-can-eat Brazilian barbecue. So, yeah, I'm paying the price for that today. I'm paying the price. But the one good thing is I am working out every day. I'm working out every day. So I'm not really like just kind of like doing nothing, but I am exercising. So that's a good thing. And I don't feel it's had a massive effect eating that much meat because it's only going to be for a short time. But I won't really know until I go back to Canada and weigh myself on a scale just to see how much weight I've gained. But just from looking at myself, you know what? I don't know. I'll see what my mom says. Usually when I go back, my mom will say, you gained weight. Or, if you guys know Korean parents, they're super honest about that. Like, they'll say it to girls, guys. They'll say it to, like, not even your daughter, just your daughter's friends, your friends, they'll say it to anyone, oh, you've gained weight. So, yeah, it's just a Korean thing. But, one thing I am happy about is I'll be going back home to good coffee. I don't know why. It's just the coffee's terrible here. Like 2 days in a row, I went to Starbucks because as crazy as this sounds, Starbucks is the best coffee in Georgia at the moment. Tomorrow, actually, I will be, tomorrow's my Friday. When I recorded this, but tomorrow I will be heading to another city, and I heard there's good coffee there, but I only heard. I cannot trust it until I actually taste it, because I've had some, you have like 700 people reviewing with 4.8 for good coffee, and I go there, it's terrible. Like if there was a 4.8 in Vancouver, that would be awesome, because Vancouver is super coffee culture. It really, because we're right next to Seattle. Seattle's like coffee culture, where coffee culture started. Starbucks started there and stuff like that too, right? And Vancouver's just the same. We're very, very close to Seattle, and coffee culture is super important. So, yeah, if there was a 4.8 in Vancouver, dang, like people would be packed. It'd be going there. Here, I think there's more caffeine junkies more than coffee lovers. That's just my feeling. They just need to get the kick from the caffeine, I think, right? Yeah. You know what? I can't actually believe I'm going to be going back to Vancouver, but then after that, I have like 3 weeks. 3 weeks before I go to Korea, and that's way sooner than I thought. So I have no idea what to expect. I'm not sure why God wants me to go, but I am sure God wants me to go. Just all the signs and how I even got this ticket is very, very amazing. So I'm not sure. God knows why I'm going, but I'm not sure myself. But I'm looking forward to it. But also on top of it, I'm kind of anxious. I'm getting I'm not like anxiety attacks, anything like that. I'm just anxious because Korea is where so many people are, and I know a lot of people over there, and people know me and stuff, and I just don't want to be around large crowds. And for me, I almost I prefer to watch online. Yeah, I do. Like in Korea, just too many people, so much stuff going on. But I will, yeah, I'll go to church. I know that sounds kind of weird, but just because, and I was at Whitestone. People know me close to KJS, and all the people that left and stuff like that. So I'm just like, do I really want to deal with this? And honestly, I don't want to deal with it, but I do, but I don't, kind of thing. So yeah, maybe it's better for me to stay in Wonmyeongdong then, because it might actually be better for my mental health, I think, right? I just don't want to deal with a bunch of the stuff too. Like, I'm thinking in my head, maybe I might get a new mission over there. Maybe not really sure, but yeah, I was thinking about something like that too. But yeah, so that's kind of something that I am looking forward to and not looking forward to at the same time. You know what's interesting? After we're listening to the Wednesday message, and I will go over that, in the second segment. But, I was just having conversations with friends here and members and stuff. And wow, we just started talking, because the message is talking about, don't just look at the future. Don't just look at what you can get from God. Look at the past and just be even more thankful. See all the things God has done for you. And while I was having Brazilian barbecue with a good friend here, we were just, all of a sudden, just testimonies were coming out. All the things that happened when I was doing missions work and when I was in London. And it really made me appreciate how much God was with me, how much He really accompanied me, how much it was the most craziest times. And the more I just talked about it, the more thankful I was. And I just, yeah, I really, really feel that having a time of testimony is such a powerful thing. And I'm so thankful to all the people out there, because more people have already told me that they're going to be making more testimonies, audio testimonies. So I'm super thankful about that too. But I want to take this time because when I was talking about these testimonies with my friend, I was inspired myself. Wow, yeah, I really, these are really amazing stories. For me, one of the things that when I went to London, it wasn't a good situation in London. Providence was going on there for 6 years. There were problems in the churches, and all these difficulties were going on inside the church. There was division and stuff like that too, and it was so weird because this is how crazy the situation was in England with the church there. It was so crazy that in the Sunday message, Sunsteam said directly to the church in the UK, don't send them the word anymore. It's bad. It's bad if Sunsteam says you don't get the word anymore. I'm just like, what? But the crazier part was on the week of that message, I get a call from Sunsteam to send me to London, and I actually thought it was judgment for me. I was just like, I'm being judged. He's sending me to a place where they're not even getting the word. Oh my goodness. So, I'm sitting there I'm just like, oh man, why is Sunsteam sending me there kind of thing, right? And I was looking at my financial situation too at that time. I was working as an English teacher. Man, I had $5,000 in credit card debt, plus I only had a couple of $100 in the account, and I was just like, man, this is crazy. This is bad. How am I going to even get there? I can't even afford a plane ticket and stuff like that too. And in my heart, I was just like, God, can I even really go? I don't really have anything to go with. And I was so, what's that word? When you're apprehensive. like, should I go? Like, he already told me to go, and I already told him, yes, I will go, right? I will do as the Lord's will. Da, 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 da. I was like saying this stuff, but I was kind of like, man, my situation's terrible. It really is terrible. Like, how am I going to actually get there? And apprehensive, didn't really take much action. I didn't even apply for my visa, right, to go to London, because then, or else I'd only have 3 months there. And I was just like, oh God, is this really it? And with about 3 weeks left before I was supposed to be in England, I didn't have a plane ticket. I had debt. I didn't have much money in my account. And I just sat there like, man, this sucks. This really sucks. And there was a Sunday message that came out. And during the Sunday message, something basically said is like, hey, you have to be the one that sets your mind, because the moment you set your mind is the moment God takes action and starts preparing things for you, right? And one of the things that came into my mind is, it's like, imagine you have parents that want to save, want to help you, especially with university and stuff like that, right? But when they ask you what you want to be, and you're like, oh, I don't really know. I don't know what I want to do, which means they don't know exactly how to prepare for you and how to help you, right? But imagine you say to your parents, I'm going to be a doctor. 100% going to be a doctor. I've been watching ER. I've just aged myself with that show. I've been watching ER, Grey's Anatomy. I've been watching like Doogie Howser. Yes, I've aged myself again. But I've been watching all these shows. I really want to be a doctor and help people like this, and this, right? Then once your parents know you've made up your mind, your parents can actually start supporting you properly. Like, they will give you books about being a doctor. They'll help you out with your test scores or whatever it is. They'll save more money because you want to go to like medical school and stuff like that too, right? So it's like, yeah, they can actually help you like specifically and prepare for you if you make up your mind. But as long as you don't make up your mind, you're wishy-washy, what can your parents do for you? And in the same way also, if you don't make up your mind of what you're going to do, how does God prepare and help you in that way? And I was so wishy-washy, like, oh, I don't think I can go. My money situation is, it's all happening. And then after hearing that Sunday message, it's like, make up your mind and God will help you. God will make the path. And I said, all right, I'm going to do it. So what I did actually was I shaved my head. Right? Because I read some, you read some books about Buddhists and stuff, why they shave their heads is to kind of, say that they don't have anything of the world. They're throwing away all their attachments and such, and they shave their head to say this, I'm going to be fully focused and only think about this kind of thing, right? And I was like, I'm going to make up my mind, and then I shaved my head. I shaved my head first, and then I applied for my visa. And I kid you not, from that point on, everything fell into place. Like everything. So remember I told you I had $5,000 credit card debt? A week later, no, not even a week later, but it was like within a couple of days, my parents came up to me and they're like, oh, our poor pitiful son going to England, and he's got so much debt and so much this, so much that. And, I just feel like crap because my parents are telling me I'm a loser, right? But then they're like, we're going to pay off your credit card debt. I'm like, what? So they paid off my credit card debt. Tell me that's crazy, right? Not only did they pay off my credit card debt, they said, yeah, we'll buy you a plane ticket too. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So now I have a plane ticket. Now I have no debt, right? But, I still don't have like money in the account kind of thing. I barely had any money, right? But then the week before I left, the church in Vancouver, they gathered money together and they gave me like hundreds of dollars, right? It was like something like $500-$600. And they're like, hey, we know you're going and we want to bless you. And they gave me like a bunch of cash. And I was like, what? This is crazy. And then I get a call from IMD and they're like, yeah, we'll pay for your plane. We'll give you money for a plane ticket and we'll give you this, like we'll give you a monthly stipend for this amount of time. And I was just like, that's crazy. And it was so weird. And then what's even crazier is after I applied for my visa, the problem is they said it takes 10 business days to get my visa to England, right? But I have to be in England in 2 weeks. So I'm like, oh my gosh, will I even get my visa in time? The visa was approved and came back in 3 days. 3 days. And I was like, man, you put the words into action. It's so true. Once you make up your mind, then God can clear the path, set the path for you. And I was like, wow, everything was set up for me. And that should have been a sign for me to trust in God. Now, this, like you're like going, well, what do you mean it should have been a sign? Like, did anything happen while you're in England? And I'm going to tell you, there's some bad stuff that happened in England. That was my fault. Like, after having this experience where God is taking care of me, I got all this stuff set up. I was like about a month in, I realized since, I'm a missionary now, I have to send reports to Sunseam, stuff like that. Didn't have a laptop. 27, 28 years old, missionizing for the first, never had a laptop back then. Remember, this is like 2005, 2006, 2005, around that time, right? And I was like, God, I don't have a laptop. So, because I really wanted a laptop, I started looking at laptops and trying to figure out which one I wanted to get. And every day I'd go into this electronics store and I'd check out their laptops every day. Kind of like hoping that someone would just give me one for free kind of thing, right? And I was like going in there every day. I was like, oh, this is it, right? And I was like, I got to get a laptop. God, I need a laptop, right? And then one day as I was leaving the electronics store, there's some dude standing on the side and he says, hey, you need a laptop? And I was like, in my heart, I was like, how did you know? And I was like, oh my gosh, this must be from God. And then this guy took me and said, hey, our family's having some troubles. We got to sell this laptop. He shows me the laptop, shows me the receipt. And I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. This is awesome kind of thing. And he's like going, it's regularly 1,500 pounds and we're selling it for 1,200. I'm like, oh, there's no way I can afford that. He's like, 1,000? I was like, you guys got to know I'm a missionary, so I don't have much money, right? And they're like, 800? I'm like, dude, I don't even have that in my account. And they're like, what do you have? And I was like, I'm sorry, but the most I can afford is like 400, so I don't think it's possible. And they're like, pausing, and they're like, all right, let's do it. I was like, what? In my head, I was like, oh my gosh, God has blessed me. And they said, you know what? We'll even throw in the laptop bag. Our family really needs the money. And I was like, yes. So they bring the laptop bag and then they follow me to the bank machine. I take the 400 pounds out and I give it to them. And then they give me the laptop bag and I'm so happy. I'm just like, oh, I'm so thankful. I run over to Starbucks with so much thanksgiving to God. I ordered the most expensive drink, the caramel macchiato, the venti caramel macchiato. I was like, yes, free Wi-Fi at Starbucks. And I go down there, I sit down, I open the laptop bag, and inside was a phone book. And I was like, oh, crap. And then I was like, no way. And then I ran outside and I was scammed. I was so heartbroken. Like, this is money that Sunseam gave me, that God gave me. And I was just like, and I just wasted it on this scam. I should have known. Oh my gosh, it was too good to be true. And I was just so sad. I was sad. I was so embarrassed. I couldn't tell anyone that I got scammed out of, for a laptop. And I was just sitting there like in total doom and gloom. I was depressed. I was just like, oh my gosh. And I was just scammed, right? And, I was kind of wallowing in my depression for like a couple weeks because, it's just my fault. I was just so stupid. And then I get a call from my parents. And my parents, all of a sudden, they're like, oh, we sold our business. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, they sold their restaurant. I was like, that's great. And what I found out later was they sold it to some rich Korean guy. And the only reason he wanted to buy the business is because if you want to get a Canadian citizenship back then, if you invested in the country by like buying a business or something along that line, you could get your citizenship within a couple of years, kind of thing like that, right? So this rich family comes in and they buy the restaurant off my parents for like a premium. They paid more than it's worth because they just want to get the citizenship. And not only that, they paid my parents to keep working there, right? So my parents got a great deal. And so what happened was they have all this extra money and they're like, oh, so we're thinking of buying you a laptop. And I was like, no way. And I just, I'm so happy, but I feel so bad because once again, it's like, it's something I needed. God heard my prayers. God knew I was doing his work over there as a missionary. And I trusted in myself. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, I should have just waited for God. Like, if I waited just 2 weeks, I would have gotten this, right? And what made it even more amazing is I had another friend from the church in Vancouver that was visiting London like a week and a half, 2 weeks later, and my parents gave it to them, and they brought it over and gave me I was so ecstatic and happy, like, oh my gosh, like God really, really took care of me. And the only thing getting in my way was my own thoughts, thinking that, oh, God, I need this. And then, isn't it weird? You ask God and then you just go and do stuff on your own. And I'm like, man, this happens a lot. But like, there's another time where God just really, really blessed me. And like, if I tell you, like, my story in London, England was such a Peter and the fish moment. Like, it's a Peter and the fish story. I tell the story tell people when I teach Peter and the fish because it's such a true Peter and the fish story. Like, Sunstein, when I first went there to England, he said he'd support me for 3 months. And I was like, okay. I'm like, do you only expect me to be there for 3 months? Kind of like, that's what I'm thinking. But Sunstein straight up like, yeah, if you don't evangelize anyone, I cut off your finances. I was like, what? So I worked so hard. I went to go evangelize in the streets, bus stops, libraries, churches, parks, just everywhere, meeting people, talking to them, inviting them. And after a month, so I have 2 months left, right? We had like 13 people studying the word. It was awesome. 2 weeks later, which means I have a month and a half left, 7 people studying. 2 weeks later, so 1 month left, there's 3 people studying. I was like, oh my gosh. 2 weeks left, there's only 1 person studying. And then with that 2 weeks left, they're like, this person had no chance of, there's no chance for this person to actually finish the Bible study. But, I'm not going to rush someone. So as the 2 weeks was, as we're teaching a Bible study each week, and then I taught them like the related missions of Jesus and John the Baptist. And after that lesson, this person got on their knees and they said, please pray for me in the Lord's name, in the name of the man and mission kind of thing, right? And I was like, what? And this person realized on that day, when I checked the calendar, guys, exactly 3 months. I was so excited. I wrote a letter to Sunstream, sent it off like, oh, Sunstream, someone in 3 months, yes, they passed. Oh my gosh. And Sunstream was like, yeah, I'll support you for another 2 months. And I was like, what? Like only 2 months? So eventually we started a house church. Me, the newcomer, and 2 other members moved into a house together. We started having service at the house. It was really cool. And this is the Peter and the fish moment. I was just like, all I was doing evangelizing, going out, bringing lives. We're teaching people all the time. And what happened was my 2 months were up. I had a couple, I had money left, but, not a lot. And this person, I realized that I was late 5 days for rent. And I was like, oh my gosh. Because, money's sensitive and people can fight. There could be divisions Satan can use money to cause divisions. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I called, and it's under the newcomer's name. I was like, hey, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot about rent. So, I'll give you the money I have, and then it's okay if I pay you a little bit later. And he's like, he says to me, like, he's like, let's talk about when I get home. And I was so broken. Like, here I am supposed to be an example. Here I am supposed to be, the missionary, but I can't even pay the rent on time. Like, how terrible is that? I just felt so bad at that time. And, all day I felt so bad. I couldn't eat any food from the fridge. I didn't go out and spend any money. I just, I was just like, God, how can I do this? Right. And when that newcomer came home, I put the money in an envelope and I cooked this person pork chops and stuff like that. But, because I felt so bad. He came home and I cooked everything. And I was like, I felt it was like the Jacob moment, right? Trying to appease Esau. When he sent all his families first ahead of him before he met his brother. And I had this down. And then I said, hey, here's about half of the rent. And I got to get like a part-time job to pay for the rest. And he's like, and he puts his hand on the envelope, slides it back to me, and he says, nah, don't worry about it. you're a missionary, so you need to do missionary work. So I'll pay for you from now on. And I was like, what? And it was so crazy. It's such a Peter in the fish moment. All I was doing is evangelizing, taking care of lives and all these other different things. And in the end, someone was paying for my rent. And they were paying for it for like the next 8 to 9 months. And during that time, our church was growing and growing and growing, moved to a bigger place. And eventually within 9 months, our church became big enough in London to support me without any help from Sunstein. Like they were paying me like more, like probably even 1.5 times of what I was getting normally, right? I was so happy and thankful. I really, really was. And, this is something where I realized, this is how it works. When you do the work of God, God takes care of you. And it's something that we can't forget, and something I can't forget too. God really, really took amazing care of me. He really did. And that is something that I'm super thankful for. And that's my testimony that I wanted to give to you guys there too. But I hope it's something that really opens your heart and inspires you too. Yeah, it's interesting because, even when I was doing a lot of that missionary work and just putting my life on the line for God, I would tell all these stories where I healed people and I did this and I worked with demon possession and stuff like that. And I would go visit and I give these testimonies and people would always ask like, hey, how come that stuff never happens to me? And the answer is, it's basically, you got to be doing it first. Like, how can you heal if you've never tried to heal someone and pray for them? How could you go into demon possession if you're not someone doing God's work constantly, where people will trust you to heal people from demon possession, stuff like that, right? And that's something that, we have to understand is, if you're in it, if you're doing God's will constantly, then these things you'll constantly see. But if you're just kind of living your life the way you want and doing the things and just thinking like, I go to church, then I go to work, then I go to school, whatever it is, you're not going to see a lot of this stuff. You got to be in it. When you're in it, you see these things. You know what I mean? So that's something I really encourage. Like if you don't do God's will, if you're not doing God's work, you're not going to see the things that God works requires. Right? God's not going to work through you if you're not doing the work, if that makes sense, right? So that is something that I do think we got to get ourselves back into. So yeah, that's my testimony. Hope you guys enjoyed that. We're inspired by that too. I got a question about yesterday's podcast when I talked about church culture. And this person on Soundcloud said, I absolutely agree with the importance of culture of a church over evangelism. Like that culture plays such a big role. And this person said they've been trying to evangelize males lately because the church is focusing on male evangelism. But they felt that after focusing so much on evangelism, they're neglecting their department members, neglecting to take care of people, neglecting to take care of themselves and the newly passed members, right? So, the struggle is to find the balance. It's a small and growing church. So they feel, a little bit burnt out, but they feel like they can't stop what they're doing. So they feel like they hope that they're not leaving the good culture behind when they focus so much on evangelism, as sometimes they spend a lot of time with newcomers over members, right? Any advice on finding the balance between evangelism and management, right, of self and other people in your church? And I would say that, it sounds like a very, very difficult thing to do. But I would say one way to make sure that you're taking care of all these things, right, is you got to schedule it. That's that's one of the basics. You have to have a basic schedule of your time that you spend with members, time you spend with your family, time you spend with yourself, time you spend with newcomers, right? Like, you can't expect to take care of members in your department if you never put time aside to take care of them. Right? And I see this happen all the time, is a lot of leaders will take care of members when it comes up. When a problem comes up, they'll take care of them. It's not planned. They're just waiting for a problem to come up. But, that's the worst time to take care of someone, because you have to put so much more energy into it. You should put a time aside every week for your members, right? Whether it's once or twice a week, whatever it is. You should put time aside for yourself at least once a week. Right? And when I say put time aside, it's not don't make it flexible. What does that mean? Like, the thing that when we get too focused on newcomers is whenever they call you, go out. Whenever they call you, talk to them. It's always focused, like, number one priority is newcomers. And it's like you can't say no to them. And the answer, and this is the thing. They're not going to die if you don't meet them once. You know what I mean? They're not going to die. And if they die from not meeting you once, they're probably not strong enough to stay anyways, right? Like, we're not here to babysit newcomers, and we're not here to babysit members either. We're here to help and support them, right? People, think about this. A normal human being should be able to take care of themselves. They should, in basic stuff. They don't need help in every aspect of life. That's their life. They need to learn and grow and take care of themselves. We're not babysitters. We're not babysitters or people who are there to solve every problem they have in life. That's not taking care of them. That's not managing them. That's trying to do everything that's spoiling them, right? And that's why, we have to kind of have the right mindset for newcomers, the right mindset for members. And my best advice is schedule it. Take time aside for members. Schedule it weekly. Take time aside for yourself. Make it a real schedule. What does it mean, a real schedule? It's like work. If a newcomer calls you in the middle of work, are you going to just drop your work, get fired, and go meet your newcomer? You're going to stop working and go meet? No. In the middle of class, no way. It's a fixed schedule. And people should be have the manners to know that, they're working, they don't need to come out. If they expect you to come out from work or class, that's a problem. And if you think that they're more important than your school, like your work, whatever it is, that's a problem on your side too. So I would say fix your time. Spend that time with members. Get that time for yourself. Make it a fixed time. You need the breaks. You need that time where you can just relax and such too. And I think that's something that people don't do often enough, is schedule their time. And I think that is a very, very important thing that we need to think about, right? So to balance is, don't just do things like off inspiration, like, I should talk to this person. No, schedule everything. Schedule it. It's so much easier, and you will never miss time with members, and you'll never miss time that you have set aside for yourself too. A lot of times we get burnt out is because we give without taking. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, you give to the newcomers, but you need that take time, which means you need that time for yourself, the time of rest, go to a spa, go exercise, go do this or that. You need that take time also, so you can regenerate that energy, right? And also with newcomers too. Newcomers shouldn't be leeches where you do everything. You buy everything for them. There should never be leeches, right? They're just taking advantage of you. If they really have proper etiquette and feelings or whatever it is, they're going to be doing things for you also, right? That's like a proper human being kind of thing. So when it comes to balancing, make sure you set a fixed schedule. Like, set it down. Make it almost 100%. Of course, there's going to be emergencies that come up, but in most cases, it's just like school and work. If it's like a family emergency, of course, your work will understand if you leave your work, of course. But for everything else, not really, right? So it's kind of having that type of mindset also. Last thing we do before we get into the first break, just quick updates that just happened. So it's official now that Sunseam has appealed to the Supreme Court for the judicial recusal. So this is a good thing, right? Remember, they rejected the appeal last week, and Sunseam had 7 days to appeal to the Supreme Court, and he did, right? So basically, this trial is not going to be starting anytime soon. And one thing that is quite interesting, remember I talked about this maybe a month and a half ago, is the new Supreme Court justice should have started at the end of September. So if there's a new guy there who really wants justice and not a mockery of the court, I think we could be seeing something a little bit different in the Supreme Court ruling, right? And second news, and I think this is kind of cool too, is a new book has come out. It's called I'm Going to Meet Jung Myung-suk, right? That's the name of the book. And it just came out, and it's already a bestseller, right? And what it's about is this author, I think he's from Break News, and he said it's one of the sad social phenomena in Korea, right? Which is about the emptiness of the Korean media. And the book is titled I'm Going to Meet Jung Myung-suk. And Basically, it follows Sunsteam's cases, and it's entered the bestseller at the Kyobo bookstore in Gwanghwamun, Seoul, right? And on its website, it entered the weekly bestseller on October 5th and ranked 15th in the essay category, right? 13th on October 4th. And this book basically identifies Sunsteam as a victim of Korean media the Korean media's over-reporting of him, right? And interesting what this guy said. He says the Bible recorder of Jesus 2,000 years ago was also a Bible reporter. And this journalist says that, they're also the recorder of the Korean version of the religious trial, which is the case of Sunsteam, right? A rare over-reporting case today. And if you look at the book's prologue, this author argues, I would like you to understand how big a repercussion the media's exaggeration, distortion coverage of an individual makes, right? Very, very interesting, right? Because he even says what this person says about Sunsteam is, he is a devout Christian who believes in Jesus and the Christian Bible. He is someone who talks about love, who is anxious to spread love, the spirit of Jesus all over the world. He is someone who loves peace, who participated in the Vietnam War and experienced the preciousness of peace. Right, so very, very interesting. Already top seller in that store. And yeah, maybe if it's going to be a top seller, which means people are going to see that book is a top seller. And if that's the case, we're going to see I hope that we can contribute to that too and order that book also, but it's in Korean. But, the more people that see that this is a top seller, the more people are going to be able to look at that and say, oh, let me read this and see what the truth about the situation is too. So I am looking forward to that, to see if that keeps climbing in the book sales. All right. So there it is, guys. That is the first segment for today. I hope you guys really enjoyed that. So let's move on into the first break of the day. so let's get into today's word study for today. And every Friday we do have the Wednesday word study. And that's because I am doing this in Asian time. So by the time I listen to the Wednesday message, it's already Thursday in the Asian countries. And that's why I do this word study only on Fridays. All right. So let's get into this week's Wednesday message. And it's quite interesting because the message, like the title change, is like a completely different message. We know that this week's message is about God's heart, our heart, God's heart, my heart. And the title for the Wednesday message is There's a Time for Everything. Do it when it should be done. And that comes from Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1. Very, very famous verse. There's a time for every season under the sun, right? So let's get into the message. And we see that there is a time for everything. And we've heard this type of message before. There's like a time to organize, a time to ask questions, and a time to give thanks. Now, the one that I thought was quite interesting was there's a time to ask questions about what is received. And I think that's something that probably we don't do enough of. Like we do spend the time preparing and organizing. We get things done. Like look at our event. Our event for the soccer event over here in Georgia. Oh, tons of preparation, not a lot of manpower, but there's so many people flying in, events and services, and just so many things have to get done. Like when I heard about how they prepared, it's actually crazy. Like they built a gazebo on the field and stuff. They had to cut down some of the field to make the field a little bit bigger. It was crazy how much work they put in. But then after everything's done, a lot of times people are just like, oh, I gotta sleep, I gotta break, I gotta rest. But in the end, like I really love how a lot of churches and a lot of people are spending time asking questions about what did you realize? Well, what did God speak to you about? Or what are the things that you received from this event? You know what I mean? And I think that's one of the things that we do lose a lot on. And I think that's why it's a perfect time right now in the month of giving glory to God to write things down or to make audios and testify about it. But I think the important thing is to write it down, right? Because when you write it down, you see it. And when you see it, you're able to give more thanks for it. It's kind of like testimony. Testimonies too, sometimes when we don't testify, we don't realize how powerful or how thankful we should be. But even me giving my testimony in that first section, after I even testify, I feel inspired. I'm like, wow, I'm so thankful to God that God accompanied me. God provided for me. God did all these things for me too. And I think that's the key thing that Sunsi was saying is, instead of moving on and just start asking God for more things, you got to stop. You got to stop and slow down. And you got to look at it and say, wait, what did God give me? Right? What has God given me already? Let me look at my past. What have I received? And we write those things down in the past. And then with those things that we write down, one of the most powerful things that I thought was, it says, write it down so everyone can see it. Basically, it's just a written testimony. A lot of times when we think about testimony is what we say. We testify to people. We tell people what God did for us. But writing books, the thing that's powerful about writing a book or writing it down is it will last generations. If you can write a testimony as well as you speak, or you write it down in such a way where it's really powerful just from reading, that will last for the next 1,000 years. Videotape can get corrupted, audios can get corrupted, or you can lose those files. But when you have that like written down, like that's something that will stay around forever. And write a book, publish it, write those things down, right? And I think that's a very important thing is before you move on and start asking God for more things, you got to kind of sit back. God, what have you done? God, what happened last week with the soccer tournament? What were the things that were so amazing? Like one thing that I'm really amazed by is they don't have a lot of manpower here in Georgia. It's a very, very small church. And in this event, there were no major problems. You know what I mean? There's everything was minor, and minor is normal. Like minor problems is something that's supposed to happen anyways, because there's a lot of things that don't happen the way you expect it to. But major problems are things where you look at it and say like, man, God was holding it together. He definitely was. Like even when I look at my body sometimes, I'm a lot older now. I'm like, the Holy Spirit is holding my body together. Please, Holy Spirit, just hold it for one more day. Just hold it for one more day and I'll be happy kind of thing, right? And that's something I do think we have to think about is before you start asking for more, before you start saying, God, do this, God, do that, it's time for us to really look back. Look back at what just happened, reflect on it, pray about it. Ask God, God, what did I receive here? I'm still wondering, like, what were the major things that happened to me? Like, I know what happened to the winning team. I know what happened during the event for the organizers. But what about, what actually happened here? What are some things that I haven't noticed yet? And I think this is when we're able to write down even more insightful things, right? And give thanks even more. Like, right after you realize, like, even for me, one of the things that I really, I realized from is the more you testify, the more you realize. You're like, oh, that's so true. Oh, and then some people will say something that triggers something in your mind to realize even more deeply about what you just went through too. So I think that was a great point is instead of asking for more, don't do it right away. Think about what God just gave you. Think about what you've received. Write it down, right? Write it down so not just you get it, but your descendants will receive it too. So it's a time. There's a time for everything. There is a time when you can ask for things again. But before you do that, don't kind of like devalue it, or make sure you know exactly what you just received so that God will be like, man, these guys really, really are thankful. They know what I gave them, kind of thing, right? So I hope that that's something that all of us can think about too. It also started talking about treasures, whether it was rocks and trees or land, geographical locations, right? Like whenever I hear the word jammy one, I still have no idea what that is. The jammy one, right? Like what makes the jammy one so amazing? Like it's something like more to do with like probably like feng shui or like where it's located and such. But for people who are non-Asians and don't know that type of thing, it's really like we just don't know. We got to study it a lot more too. But one thing that I thought that was really powerful that we should be thinking about also about things that are happening, that treasures we receive because it happens at the right time. And one of them is the man in mission. Like that is such a powerful one when you think about how everything was done at the perfect time. Being born, like everything was perfect. Like Susie being born at 1945 and then coming out at 1978 is 33. Like that's like that's the age where Jesus died. Like that's not only Sunstein, that's even the John the Baptist of this time period, exact same thing. Came out like 33, 34 years old. It was exact same thing, right? Everything was done in perfect timing. And when you think about this, because it was done in perfect time, everything was done so perfectly that because of that perfect timing, all of us can be saved. All of us can be raptured because of that timing. Something came too early, something came too late, it wouldn't have happened, and it wouldn't have been able to fulfill the prophecies of Time Times and Half of Times of 1978. It wouldn't happen. It couldn't happen. Because if you're a year late, we're going to say, well, that doesn't fulfill the prophecy. And if it ends in 2024 instead of 2023, we're going to be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. If it didn't start if it didn't start June 1st for Alpha Day, we talked about this before, then it'd be like, wait, something doesn't make sense here either. You know what I mean? And we have to be those that understand is because everything was done in perfect timing, this is why we can realize 1978, 1948, 1978, 2023, everything is perfect. Like even though we're going through a very difficult time, the one thing that's really, really interesting is like this is what, remember in 1999? Well, you guys don't remember 1999 because I was here in 1998. I learned Time Times and Half and I'm like, oh my gosh. The grave period starting in like 4 months. Because I remember I passed at the end of September. So October, November, December, like 3 months. In 3 months, we're going to go into the grave period. And when the grave period happened, started in 1999 in January with the first broadcast against Providence, for me, it wasn't so much of, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. I can't believe I'm in this place. It was more of, he was right. The prophecy is correct. You know what I mean? Like, I'm more shocked by that. Like, it's right. And that's kind of one of the things that we should be shocked by too by 2023 is when this all happened. We're like, what the heck? And here's the crazier part. The crazier part is, we might say, well, it didn't really happen in January, but it did. It started in January. All the spreading of the slander and all that stuff, like, people spreading it, people starting to shake and leave and all. It happened January 2023 at the beginning of it happened exactly in the beginning. It was really interesting because one of my friends from Korea called me up. He's been trying to call me for like 2 weeks. And he said, hey, how did it start? And I told him it was January. It's like, whoa. So 2023 was prophesied and it happens January 2023. That's how perfect the timing is, where it shouldn't make us look at it and say, oh my gosh, this is so terrible. We should be like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. The Bible is perfect. It's giving us exact timing. It's unbelievable, right? That's how great timing is. Because of that timing, we can understand time times half a times. We see the exact dates and we're like, okay, this is real. This is the history of God. Why? Timing. It's perfect. When Sunseam came out, when it was Alpha Day, when 2023 came, like all these things are perfect. 1999, perfect. Everything's perfect timing. It was all done in the perfect way. And this is why we're able to be saved. If it wasn't perfect timing, we'd have a very difficult time believing in this history because it didn't match 1978. It didn't match 2023. Savior, the man of mission, was raised at the right time. And when all the descriptions of how, the Holy Trinity is, these treasures of rocks and trees and land, whatever it was, the message is talking about like these things have been prepared for thousands, for millions of years, right? It's been prepared for so long. And then it's finally given to you. And when you think about this, it's like, yeah, even if you look at this history, it's been in the making for the last 2,000 years. 2,000 years. Where the seals, like the Bible, the treasure of the Bible has been sealed, but finally it comes out. Only the one that God loves, the one that God has sent, at the perfect time breaks the seals. And through those seals, we're able to be saved with the perfect timing. So I hope it's like, when we look at timing, if we start looking deeper into how perfect the timing actually is, this is when our mouths drop. We're like, what the heck just happened kind of thing, right? And we need to know how precious the treasure of the one that God sent is, because without him and without even the perfect time, without anything happening, how could any of us be in this new history, right? So, I liked how Sunseam talks about the places that are treasures like mountains, waters, scenery, trees, rocks, geological forms. They're all they're all treasures, right? And then we kind of go into like the different forms, the 9 forms of Wolmyongdong, the 7 human forms, 6 of them being female, the plot of land that's shaped like a star with 2 other small stars and stuff like that too. Like when we look at all these things, it's like, how do you get like 16 different things from this one piece of land, right? And for me, it's the hard part is I wish we could see I wish I could take a look at those pictures a lot longer just to look at it more carefully, right? But we look at it's really, really amazing. Like the ones that I liked the most was the eagle and the dragon like shapes. I was just like, whoa, that's so crazy, right? And I looked at that, and one thing that I liked about what the message was telling us is like, look at all these amazing things and amazing shapes all happened because it was developed. And the part that I thought that was very personal and something that we can really look deeply into when it comes to look at yourself, right? Look at yourself. Realize about yourself. Make yourself even more. Because even when you look at Wolmyongdong, before it's developed, there's no shape. Before it's developed, you have no idea what it could possibly be, that there's actually 16 forms. But the main key issue here is you will never see your true potential, your true identity, the true self until you're all developed. And then you see the special form. You see the special character you have. You see the special skills. You see the special traits. We can't realize fully until we make ourselves. right? That's the main thing that I was looking at. I was like, wow, it's so true. You won't know what you can do physically until you start exercising and making yourself. Then you know your limits of your physical self, of your fitness, right? You're not going to know. We have to be those that kind of reach that next level when it comes to making ourselves. And a lot of times we put aside making ourselves because we're going through difficulty, because we're going through a tough time. But it's kind of in the message too, like when it's time to do something, it's time to do it regardless of how hard it is. Like we got to drink that bitter cup together with the Lord because it's the time to do it. It's hard. God's not making us do it. It's because Satan's evildoers, the demons are there ready to attack us. We've got to reach that next level. Like God, when it says, think about how much God has accompanied you, that's what made me think about that time in London with those testimonies I gave at the very beginning here. How miraculous it was. I had one time when I was wandering around London because I ran out of money. I didn't know how I was going to take a bus back. I didn't. And out of nowhere, randomly an elder wanted to meet with me at Starbucks. We talked about this and that, and he gave me like 150 pounds on the spot. And I was like, what? And that's when I was struggling, when I had zero left. I was stuck in the city. And, there's nothing more than miraculous. Why? Because I'm not telling people I'm broke. I'm not telling people I have no money. Come give me money. I'm stuck. How many times was God with me? I can't even count. So and there's just one thing that I thought was interesting too. When Sunseem said that when Wonmyeongdong wasn't developed, Wonmyeongdong was mistreated. People thinking this place is like hell. They're suffering in this place because it's undeveloped. And it made me think like, yeah, people too, the same thing. The same thing with people. When you don't make yourself, it's like, it just looks barren. And no, people are not going to value you. And you're going to be mistreated because you're not made. Like, think about this. When do people go to someone for like business? When they're great at business. But if you're not great at business, they're not going to think twice about you. They're not going to hire you. They're not going to give you money. They're not going to respect you. You're mistreated when you're not developed. And you're actually putting yourself through suffering and hell. But it's only after Wonmyeongdong was made, then the environment becomes heaven on earth. Right? Human clouds gather every day in Wonmyeongdong, right? It's respected. It's treated well. People honor it, right? In the same way, think about yourselves. Sometimes, like, we sit there, why don't people use me? Why don't people talk to me more? Why don't people do this or that? It's because a lot of times we're undeveloped. We're not fully developed. I know some people who are developed in one area and not developed in other, which means they're developed, say, in evangelism, but their characters are not developed. So even though they're good at that, people still don't want to use them because of the character, right? We have to make ourselves how? According to God's design. Well, what's God's design? God's design is through the Word. And through the Word, we learn how to make ourselves. Through the Word, we learn how to change. Through the Word, there's so many things we get from it. And because of that, we're being used more and more. Like even for myself, because I was so focused on lecturing, I would be used for lecturing, for sermon deliveries, for these types of things, because that's my skill. And other people might say, well, why don't you use me? Why don't you use me? And the answer is, are you developed in that area or not? And if they say, well, how can I develop if no one gives me a chance? And the answer is, you have to make your own chances in the beginning. Like even for me, I had to go evangelize people myself, teach them myself. The very first time I taught was the person that I evangelized. And I didn't even want to teach them. Make ourselves according to the Word, because the Word is God's design, right? What is God's, well, how can we see God's design through the Word? Well, God is like saying, love your enemies. That's one of the designs of God, where He wants people that don't hate others. Pray for those that persecute you. What kind of people do God want? God wants people that have the love of God in their hearts, that they can forgive and pray for those who even are against them. God wants people who are kind. God wants people who are gentle. God wants people who are fierce and brave. That all comes through the word. And we'll see it as we put the words of God into action. Right? There's another thing that I thought was awesome when Sunstein says, when people burn a fire, if they burn a fire on their own, it eventually goes out. But if the fire burns according to God's will, it will never go out. So we have to make things according to God's will. And that's something that I thought was interesting, because when we do things with our own plans, when it was just what we want to do, eventually it's going to snuff out. Just like John the Baptist, after, when he came 2,000 years ago, even John the Baptist's fire burned out. People thought he was the Messiah, but eventually 400 years later, the church or the following of John the Baptist actually died off. Because it wasn't God's. But Jesus, it's continuous. It's continuously going. People still waiting for him today. The fire doesn't go out. But those are done not according to God's will. They burn out. Like even the person I told you in 1999 who went against Sunstein, he was also like the second in command. He started his own group called Noah's Family. Never heard, don't even hear about it now. Don't even hear about it. The fire burns out. But providence is still going. Even though we're persecuted, even though we're going through so many things, the fire's still burning. Right? And, one thing that I did talk about in the Sermons in the Sky was we can't be Jesus. We can only be Christ-like, right? And we're the body of Christ, so we have to do our own things, right? And that's why I liked in the message too, is like, you don't have to do a lot of things. Just do the things that you've been entrusted with. Every day, right? Each moment, do the things you're entrusted with. That's your job, right? You're part of the body. And then it becomes easy and you don't grow tired. And a lot of times I do see people take on like 3, 4, 5 missions. They just get burned out. But if you take only what's yours, then you won't get burned out. People aren't meant to burn out. This is when it's easy. This is when you don't grow tired, because that is your work. It's your work, right? And of course, like the Wednesday message, what's it about? Don't just do your work, do it at the right time. It's always the lazy people that don't do it at the right time, but the diligent do it even though it's hard. Because how many times have we heard this? If you miss the opportunity, if you miss the time, you can't grab it, even if you're ready for it. It's already done. So I hope that all of us here too will really have that time to think about all the things that we need to get done, right? And, one of the big points that came out is, when the time comes, a lot of times it doesn't come the way that you expect, and that's why you miss it. And that's why we have to be those understanding when these times come, how do we have to deal with it when these times come, right? When the time comes for you to do something, it may not happen the way that you expect or the way that you like. But you can't think to yourself, it can only happen this way. Right? This is why there's so many people still waiting for the Lord to come back again. They're still waiting for Jesus. And then there's the Jews that are still waiting for the Messiah to come, even though Jesus already came. So we have to be those that in a smaller, like we miniaturize that, when God is giving us opportunity, when God is giving us, like telling us the time is right, sometimes we just got to be open. Our hearts have to be open, always asking God, God, is this what you're trying to give me? Because it's not what I expected. Right? And, when the man of mission is here, what's the greatest part about that? We can just ask him, God, I'm not sure. Something, is this right? I was praying for this, but is this the right thing? What is it time to do? That last part of the message I really liked is, hey, what's it time to do now? It's time to pray together. It really is. This last 70 days for 2023, pray together until December 10th. Defeat evil, defeat Satan, right? Make sure people come, make sure there's absolute peace. No matter how hard it is, let's not break our rhythm. Oh, history's been waiting for 2,000 years for this very day. So even if there's a bitter cup, let's drink it together with the Lord, because that is our righteousness, that is our merit, right? And if it's tough, keep calling out to God. Keep calling out to the Holy Spirit and Jesus, right? Call it to the man in mission, and they will accompany us. All right. So there it is, guys. That is today's word study for the Wednesday message, and I hope it's something that you guys received a lot from too, and I hope that you guys will continuously benefit from this also. All right. If you have any other things that you want to comment about the Wednesday message, go ahead, leave it in the comments below. Anything you want to talk about, leave it below. I'd love to hear from what you guys think too. Okay, so let's move into the second break of the day.
Just as a warm spring breeze thaws out the frozen ground, you came to me like springtime, and then you embraced my heart. Your words became a song, like a poem in my heart. They came just like a letter, and they opened up my heart. That heart of true sincerity, and all the stories shared between you and I are like gifts from up above, just the way we are now. Let's converse together, let's protect each other as we comfort one another. Let's follow that one voice that leads us to God, and we'll sing of all the same dreams. Just as a river shines and sparkles in the sun, you came to me like sunlight, and you brightened up my heart. Although the setting sun so briefly paints the sky, the beauty and inspiration I'm feeling lingers in my heart. That heart of true sincerity, and all the stories shared between you and I are like gifts from up above, just the way we are now. Let's converse together, let's protect each other as we comfort one another. Let's follow that one voice that leads us to God, and we'll sing of all the same dreams. Just the way we are now. Let's converse together. Let's protect each other as we comfort one another. Let's follow that one voice that leads us to God, and we'll sing of all the same dreams. Just the way we are now. Let's converse together. Let's protect each other as we comfort one another. Let's follow that one voice that leads us to God, and we'll sing of all the same dreams. and we'll sing of all the same dreams.
Okay, so let's get into this final segment for today and for the entire week. Yes, this is the last segment. We get this every Friday. This is Until the End with Daniel Baker over there in Korea. I can't wait to see him. I'll be seeing him in about 3 weeks because he lives near Wonmyeongdong, and I'm going to be there for at least the first week or so too. So let's get into it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please welcome Daniel Baker all the way over there in Korea with Until the End.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Do It Until the End podcast. Now, I really want to thank you guys for listening to the MSD podcast and giving me this amazing place to share my thoughts and everything about mental health and going until the end with the Trinity. You know, it's very amazing that like almost every week I'm meeting people that I've either saw through internet or through Zoom meetings, but also people that I've seen in the past with the States, living in Korea, and people in the past came over to my house, came to visit, and I'm reuniting with these people like 4 to even 10 years from now, and it's very amazing that God is, making our paths cross again. It's been an amazing past couple months because of that, and because Wonmyeongdong is opening up, and Sunseim said if you're visiting Korea, the first thing you should do is go to Wonmyeongdong. So yeah, and I'm in the Wonmyeongdong church running really hard. Very excited to see all of the people who listen to MSD, all of my old friends in the States, and anywhere else but Korea. A lot of interesting things I've been doing. The SS has been preparing for the SS soccer tournament. So there's been a soccer tournament for the SS that hasn't happened in like a year. So it's a yearly tournament, but there was a lot of difficulties with what happened in March, and we were really thinking, would there be a tournament this year? Because headquarters, SS headquarters is not like as, what do you say? Not as developed as the past. So we thought that, but God really made a way. So it's been very interesting because 2 months ago, during the time where we were doing all of the retreats, Sunseim, approved a lot of leaders within the SS headquarters. So a lot of leaders are working together to make the SS really shine. Whatever it is, through programs, through like 7-minute Wednesday service reviews or recaps, through weekly SS songs. It's everything, all of the SS in Korea, they're recovering. And I don't think the Wonmyeongdong SS had a lot of difficulties, but overall, everyone is recovering. I don't know about Seoul or that area too much, but I pray that everyone's doing well. Yeah, so it's very interesting because I am going to talk about some of my insecurities right now, because one of the best ways to understand and make sure that you don't fall victim to these insecurities and you're able to guard your heart is to talk about them. It's talking about your insecurities with your family, your friends, to random people on the internet. All of it's fine because it gives you the opportunity to really think and make sure that your thoughts are organized. So, one of the big things that happened this week, Sunday message. guard your heart. To be perfectly honest, I haven't been doing the best with this because of what happened in March. I was able to, just blow it off for a while, but a lot of what I was hearing from within Providence, from other people, other leaders, trying to take me away, as you could say that. Those words, they added up a lot. And when they add up, it really made me in a state of high anxiety and almost... So I would have this constant anxiety for a good while, and I'm still recovering from it. I wouldn't say it's like super bad or not manageable, but it gets really bad at least every 2 months. So for at least a week, every 2 months, it's very difficult to wake up for morning service. It's very difficult for me to even eat once a day because, what happens when you're kind of depressed is you're thinking about nothing. That's what I do. So I think about nothing for hours and hours and hours. It's not just 1 hour. It's hours. And I think about nothing. I just lay down and time flies. It flies fast when you're doing this. So that's something I've been realizing. And I don't know if it's also, there's some like seasonal changes because Korea just got like super cold, super fast. And maybe that's contributing it to the situation a little bit. I don't know. But yeah, it's kind of interesting that I'm getting to realize that this is happening. And yeah, I've been having this constant, I wouldn't say like, major anxiety, but constant amount of anxiety that causes me 2 months, like 2-3 months to just feel like I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do that. So how did I get out of this? In the past, a lot of times I would have to talk with a lot of people and make sure that I don't spend a lot of time by myself. Make sure I'm spending time with the SS, with leaders, with my family, and to make sure that I don't have time with myself. And then after a while, being with yourself isn't that bad. But that's kind of like a short-term, right? Short-term measure that, it worked for me in the past, but to be perfectly honest, I don't know. It's been a cycle. And it feels like every wave has been consistently more difficult. However, it's very important to find a long-term goal, a long-term plan towards a goal. So for me, the goal is to get rid of this consistent anxiety. Now, what kind of plan can I make? I can make a plan for things that help me reduce anxiety, which is like going to the gym, eating consistently, making sure I wake up at a regular time. All things that as I have like a decent amount of anxiety in my life, so those are really important things that, unfortunately, that I've, fumbled. And, it's like I've walking around with a carton of eggs and I just tripped over. And I need to pick them back up, get back on the schedule. And so it's very important, everyone, for us, because we are social people. We're social animals. Humans are social. And even if you're the most independent and you're like the strongest and most severe introvert on the planet, you do need other people to live. You do. It's it's an unfortunate fact for some people. I like it because I don't want to say I'm like relying on other people, but it's really fun, playing around with people, playing with SS, a lot of fun. And that's something that is needed for regular life, to have a regular, consistent life. So this is all I have for you today. It feels very good to talk with my family, with you guys. Yeah, and to everyone who's improving their lives to go until the end, let's walk this path together. Peace out, guys. Bye-bye.
And thank you, Daniel, so much for another wonderful episode of Until the End. I hope you guys really enjoyed this, and I have the same heart as Daniel. Super thankful for all of you guys there for creating this space and this platform for all of us to, for some of us who are doing these podcasts and segments, to really express themselves and talk about the things that have been going on in their mind too. All right. So I hope you guys have an amazing and awesome weekend. Make sure you guys are always calling out to the Lord each and every day. And we'll see you guys again on Monday on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and feel your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone,